All right, hello there. I am in your Chapter 3 guidebook all the way down to your theory of improvement. So it's just under your last stakeholder engagement sample table. And I'm going to give you some coaching tips for your theory of improvement. Now, theory of improvement here is a level 1 heading, but what follows are instructions for paragraphs that will come underneath that level 1 heading. We don't have a level 2 heading for this introduction to our theory of improvement. We have level 1 heading, and we're going to right into our conceptualization, kind of almost your very, very broad understanding of how you have built a theoretical framework around your theory of improvement. So the purpose of this section is establishing the theoretical foundation that guides your improvement work by describing how you have incorporated a few different frameworks to inform your theory of improvement. Now here for Chapter 3, you've talked about theory of change and theory of improvement. What we're doing here in this dissertation is we're going to use the term theory of improvement as very broad, as like the overarching umbrella for these different frameworks of improvement and change and design thinking that you've explored here in this program. So we're calling it a theory of improvement, and you'll talk about all the different ideas and inspirations you have that have kind of permeated your understanding of improvement work and improvement science. So this is where you'll demonstrate, or you'll get into design thinking and theory of change and how they complement improvement science methodology. So it'll be about 4 or 5 paragraphs. You're going to define theory of improvement within improvement science methodology, and then explain how design thinking and theory of change have influenced your approach. You read about some of these things, you explored some of these ideas in EDD 810, right? So go back to that work and take a look at what you were thinking and what you have thought. Take a look at the resources that have kind of influenced your thinking, and you're going to tend to some of that here. Tone and approach, you're always using first-person narrative I statements, write with conceptual clarity while remaining accessible. Sometimes when we get into talking about theory, everybody's eyes glaze over because theory is just weird and ethereal and kind of very abstract, but your goal is for it to be really practical and for it to be really accessible. Imagine that you have a colleague in your organization who is not in a doctoral program, who is reading your dissertation over their favorite cup of coffee. You want them to be able to, maybe 2 or 3 cups of coffee. You want them to be able to understand it. And here you're going to focus on integration rather than separate framework descriptions. We'll talk about like how these different frameworks are different. You will mention that. But the goal is like how you kind of picked and chosen aspects of theory of change and design thinking and theory of improvement to make up your general theory of improvement. You demonstrate thoughtful synthesis across multiple approaches. So here's some of the organization. Use these guiding questions. Again, a reminder, do not avoid writing in a call and response manner, but here are your topics. These aren't headings. These are just topics to guide you. Talk about them in this order for a reason. Yeah. So your first topic that you're going to talk about is theory of improvement, definition, and purpose. So tell your readers, what is a theory of improvement? What's the purpose of it? How is it related to improvement science work? How is it important for your specific context? 1 to 2 paragraphs. I should add an S there. And then your next topic is design thinking. The topic that's after that is your theory of change framework. So again, you read about these in 810 and you've thought about them, like how is this influencing my thinking? So tell your readers, what is design thinking? What are key ideas that you find inspiring? Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to talk about all the ideas from design thinking. This isn't just a paragraph where you summarize what design thinking is. Okay, I'll say that again. This is not a paragraph where you're summarizing what design thinking is. You're telling us how design thinking, how this framework has influenced you. You do need to tell your readers what it is, but that's just pretty brief. Tell us what you're pulling from it. Like what are the key ideas or the key principles that you're specifically using? It might be all of them. It might just be a few of them. Same thing for theory of change. You're not just describing what theory of change is. It's not just a big old summary paragraph where you're like teaching someone what it is. You're mentioning what it is and directly applying it. You're telling how it's influenced you, how it's guided your thinking about improvement work in general. Now, what I'll say here is you are thinking generally here. So in this section, you have like your scholar practitioner mindset on, your improver mindset on. You're not specifically thinking about how is design thinking influencing my exact change idea that I'm doing. We're not getting that specific yet. You haven't even told your readers what your change idea is yet. That's going to be much later in your document. You're just telling, like, from this disposition standpoint, that's why we're stepping back, we're getting kind of theoretical. How have these ideas shaped your thinking in general? Shaped, like, the lens, the glasses that you view this idea of improvement work with. So you want to have a little bit of distance. You're not talking about your change idea, but you are talking about how you approach change or improvement in your organization vaguely or broadly in general, okay? And then you'll have some concluding thoughts, one paragraph about, how does all of this talk of theory influence your approach to improving your problem of practice in your organizational context? What are some of the big ideas resonating with you? How are they shaping your identity as a scholar practitioner? What are some of your reflections? So again, kind of thinking, wrapping things up like as a whole from this, you're stepping back a little bit. Detail level, provide clear definitions and explanations while focusing on their integration application. Include enough conceptual detail that your readers can understand your foundation without overwhelming them with framework specifics. You only have one paragraph to talk about design thinking and how it's influenced you. This is not a 2-page paragraph. This is maybe 5-6 sentences. Okay? Writing tips, topic sentences, use your resources and the resources that you might have explored in 810. Cite sources appropriately, show connections, demonstrate how these frameworks work together, and remember that strong theoretical foundations enhance the credibility of your improvement work. They really are the lens. Like, they give you a little bit of shape. They give you a little bit of structure. They give you a little bit of like narrowing your scope, and we see things through a certain lens. There's usually some framework that we can fall back on. There's some credibility, there's some grit to it. I don't know what other words I could use, but it means that you're well informed. And this is also the scholarly aspect of being a scholar practitioner, is leaning on some of these ideas. Okay,